All right, finna go to get started. All right. What's good, everybody? Welcome back to the Life of a Champ podcast, episode number 80, talking about how to think critically. Now, this is a very, very important podcast that I've been meaning to make, and it is definitely one that sadly needs to be talked about. So I'm going to be talking about that today. Before I go ahead and start it, make sure you go ahead and follow me on TikTok. It's just Life of a Champ podcast on TikTok. And make sure you go ahead and watch my new video that I just posted on this channel as well. It's like 7 minutes long. I've been posting clips of the podcast that are longer than a short, but shorter than a podcast. So if you're interested in still watching the podcast, but in longer form, that is still shorter than the regular podcast, that is going to be the route to go. So I definitely would recommend those. So tap in with that for sure. But other than that, if you are watching this or you are rewatching this, make sure you go ahead and leave a like as well as leave a comment, just so I can see who's in here and who's engaging today. But for this podcast, this is a very, very important one because I just see people not thinking for themselves, and I think that's one of the most important things you could do as a person. Um, is think for yourself, and I see more and more people just believing what they're told instead of thinking for themselves. So, um, yeah, like I said, people just don't want to think for themselves. People are going to believe everything that they're told nowadays. This is something that I see. They're just believing what they're told instead of um, thinking about how they want to live their life and create their own story and create their own opinions, right? They would rather just kind of get that opinion from somebody else and then kind of run with it. Or another reason why I wanted to make this podcast is specifically because I see people not taking in many different forms of content, forms of information, so they can create a well-informed opinion. And if you're a person that is just believing everything you're told, you're not living life correctly. I'm gonna say that. I'm gonna say that in the nicest sense. You're simply not living life the way it was intended to be lived. And like I said, that's pretty much all I see. Right? There's certain examples. I'm not gonna mention any specific examples, but there's certain examples that I've seen within society where people will either say things or yes say things and have an emotional reaction to saying those things without actually having any specific reasoning behind that. It is just because it's something that they heard and something that was what they heard a lot, and they didn't take the time to look into specifically what it was. And like I said, to make a well informed opinion, you need to take in multiple different sources of information and then make your own um, opinion. A great example of this, and I'm always going to be an advocate for this. Let's just say you're a person who watches the news, right? Now, within these last few years, you should believe the news less than you did a few years ago, right? We had one of the biggest events of my life, if I can keep it, you know, very clear and concise, right? One of the biggest events in my life, right? One of the biggest events that has happened in recent time in all of our lives, and you've seen people completely believing everything the news told them, right? And that is not ideal because it turned out that a lot of the things that they told us were not true, right? And you need to be able to have your own opinion and not, like I said, not believe everything you're told, because sometimes there are specific sources of information that come out that do not exactly have your best interest in mind. And like I said, these last few years should have showed you that perfect example. Like, hey, wake up, right? There's certain things that we should believe as facts, that we should believe, that are a credible source, that are indeed not a credible source. They do not have your best interest in mind, and maybe even know just as much as me and you, right? So with that being said, you need to think. You need to think critically. Thinking critically is one of the most important things that is needed, and it also helps you solve problems as well, right? And if you didn't notice, there's not that many people who are really good at solving problems because they don't think critically. They believe that what they're told. Um, yeah, so that's kind of how I want to start the podcast, right? So if you have any specific comments regarding any of that, make sure you go ahead and let me know, either how you feel about that, or if you just if you just kind of if you kind of have a different viewpoint, let me know. Jay, shout out to Jay. Shout out to Jay, by the way. Appreciate for watching the pod, man. Give me 1 second. All right. Like I said, the fact that I even need to make this specific podcast is pretty insane because this should be common sense, but common sense obviously is not that common. So therefore, I need to make this right. Um, like I had mentioned, right? You need to evaluate who you trust. What information, what source of information are you getting some of your information from and your opinions from, right? Evaluate who you trust and start asking more questions to these quote unquote trustworthy companies, like I had mentioned. So, like I said, just evaluate who you trust, man. Like, okay, I'm not saying I'm the most credible source. I'm saying I'm gonna keep it real with you. I'm gonna keep it real with you. And if you respect somebody being real, then you definitely should be at least taking in this input, right? I'm not saying make every single opinion that I have your opinion. I'm saying I'm a person who does exactly what I say I do, right? I know how to think critically. I take information from a lot of different sources and make my well-informed opinion the way that I think anybody should. So that's how I would say my opinion is somewhat credible, right? Um, yeah, so it's as simple as that, right? Simple as that. And along with this, this is one of the most important points of the entire podcast. If you don't notice this, free speech is obviously getting suppressed, and I've talked about this on plenty of other podcasts before. But I want to make this point because I haven't made this point specifically. So, like I said, free speech is being suppressed, or is being free speech is being suppressed. And with that being said, there's a bigger problem at hand than free speech being, suppressed. So, when there is certain sources of input that we can potentially get, they're being blocked. That means there's only one real narrative to believe, right? So, for example, right, like I had mentioned, there's this big event that happened a few years ago, and I'm sure you guys know what I'm talking about, right? There's people who spoke out against that, and they were silenced. And I think that's very interesting because some of those people were right. And it turns out, you looking back years later, hey, some of them were right. Some of them actually knew what the hell they were talking about. Now, a lot of people think they were absolutely crazy, and it's because they believed everything the news told them, right? So you need to think. You need to think critically, right? You need to think critically, and people having discourse, whether agreeing or disagreeing on something, is definitely needed. This is why I created this podcast in the first place: is to have respectful discourse about topics that I find interesting, right? With that being said, you cannot suppress one side of the narrative, because if you suppress one side of the narrative, you are changing reality. You're changing the existence of the people that are here right now. Like I had mentioned, you start saying people, you start discrediting people when they should be able to have their own opinion, and now you have only one route to believe. And if you believe anything contrary to that, they might try to silence you. And I think that's absolutely ridiculous. I think it's ridiculous. Like I said, if you're watching this and have a differing opinion, and you believe everything you're told, make sure go ahead and leave it in the comments because I want to know. All right. And more importantly, right, when you have one controlling narrative, right, that is supposed to be the way and only the way. Shout out to Deep, appreciate for stopping by. If you have a specific narrative that is going to be the only way, and no other thing needs to be heard because this is the one thing that you should believe in, right, and you shouldn't hear any other sides of the story, right, that is the beginning of a tyranny. And if you don't know what a tyranny is, that's pretty much absolute control, but in a smaller form, right? And with more important, the opinions and the ideas and the things that you think about right now, right? And I feel like once you start leaning toward that side, you kind of get a little, uh, life gets a little scary. In my opinion, life gets a little scary when you start, like I said, basically starting a tyranny, essentially, right? Having one narrative be the truth instead of having multiple different opinions and then you creating your own truth. Everyone needs to create their own truth. Everyone needs to create their own opinions, and you shouldn't just take exactly what one person says as the full truth. You need to get multiple sources, like I said, to create a well-informed opinion. I keep repeating that because it's absolutely needed. Um, but yeah, another thing with it being the start of a tyranny, it's also mind control of the masses. Realistically speaking, right? If I say, "Hey, don't listen to him. He doesn't know what he's talking about." Let me go ahead and say, "Shut up, man. Don't say anything. I don't want to hear you talk. I'm going to ban your account, whatever, right? And I want you to just listen to me." Now, does that sound kind of fucked up? That's the way I'm thinking, right? So I'm a big believer in, like I said, no cancel culture. I'm very against cancel culture, and of course, there's going to be certain instances that objectively anyone can say, "Hey, that person is a bad person." But there's been plenty of recent cancellations that have happened that have been very questionable, right? And if you're a person who's going to think critically, You need to be able to evaluate these things for yourself, right? And now don't just take my word for it. Make your own opinion on these things. When you see something happening within society and a lot of people are talking about it, do not believe even the most trusted people that you know. Take their information that they give you, take information from the opposing side, and now create an opinion for yourself, right? Do not just believe what you're told because that's not even how you're supposed to live life, man. That's not how you're supposed to live life. Get the sources of information, come up to your own informed opinion, and go from there. Give me 1 second. Like I said, if you're in here right now, I appreciate you for stopping by. Make sure you go ahead and leave a like. And like I said, if you have a comment regarding anything that I'm talking about, make sure you go ahead and leave it in the comments as well. But yeah, it's I would say it's a manipulation of reality. If like I said, you silence one side of the narrative, it's nothing more than them whoever they are controlling the narrative of where the society is going. And like I said, everybody needs to be conscious of these things because if you're not conscious of these things, you're nothing more than just another character in the game. That's kind of the way I look at it, right? You're nothing more than just an NPC, a bot, right? Like a lot of people like to call it, right? You're nothing more than just a person who's just existing, not a person who is, going to make some change or actually, has some stuff that actually matters, right? So, like I said, you need to take these things into account. Like I said, make a well informed opinion by getting multiple sides of the story and then coming up with your own opinion. Um, but yeah, I'm gonna say how I call this the How to Think podcast or How to Think Critically, right? Because like I said, people just don't do it. People just don't do it, right? I kind of have to describe kind of the way that I view life myself, right? Obviously, this is called the Life of a Champ podcast. I'm going to give you the ideas and things that I've been consuming for a while now, and I want to go ahead and display that in a way where, like I said, it can get out to a lot of people because there are certain messages that I'm going to say that definitely need to get out more. And if you're a person, you're obviously you guys watching this, you guys recognize what the hell I'm talking about. Um, but yeah, it is just as simple as that, right? I'm gonna be talking about um, topics that I find relevant within my life and within society, and I feel like those are going to give you the most information you're going to need. Like I said, to build your opinion, right? All I'm trying to do is give you some information, and you can go ahead and take that information and take sources of information from somebody else, and make your own opinion, right? I'm not saying believe everything that I have to say. All I'm saying is I would say I'm a more credible source than a lot of these people because a lot of these people just spew back what they're told, and I'm not one of those people, right? Um, and I feel like I said, not you shouldn't be one of those people either, right? You shouldn't just be believing everything you're told and then just talking about it because here's the thing: if you come into contact with a person who knows both sides of the story, they're going to be able to destroy your argument very very easily, right? Well, did you think about this? Well, you're stumped. You're stumped because you haven't even thought that far, right? And if you want to avoid that, you're going to need to, like I said, I'm gonna keep repeating it because it needs to be repeated. You gotta take in more than just what people are saying around you, right? And the way I would do this personally, like I said, first, if I'm gonna give you my opinion, right? Don't believe the news. Don't listen to the news. The news doesn't have your best interest in mind. So, if you're a person who watches the news, stop watching the news. It's not worth your time. It's not worth your energy. It's not worth your attention. It's not worth your focus. Okay. And I say that because I don't see too many things that are positive on the news, anyways. Right? The news is just going to be reporting on things that are negative, and like I said, it's not exactly ideal. It's not exactly ideal, right? I don't want to hear me personally. I don't want to hear a bunch of negative things because that's gonna fuck with the way I think and the things that I focus on. And if you're a person who's trying to maintain positivity, consuming the news might not be the best route to go, right? I feel like that just sounds common sense to me. That's kind of the way I see it, right? So, like I said, a lot of these sources that you deem to be credible, which way, how are they trying to influence you? That's a question that I always ask. And yeah, like I said, make sure you're not. If you're a person right now and you're completely okay with cancellations and things like that, I want you to leave it down in the comments because, like I said, I'm a person who's completely against that. Because then you start to see, like I said, you see the start of a tyranny, you see the start to mind control, you see the start to manipulation of the reality that we live in, based off of people saying, "Hey, this is the way it is," and don't listen to anybody else, man. Here's the thing: if you're listening, if you can take one thing from this podcast, right? If there's somebody saying, "Hey, don't listen to that person," don't listen to that person who said that. I'm just gonna say that. I'm gonna say that right there, right? Or if they say they're not worth listening to, like I said, I'm gonna say anyone is worth listening to at least one time, so you can make your opinion on that person, right? But at the very least, like I said, do not listen to anybody. Don't really truly think that the person has the best interest in mind for you and society if that person is trying to silence somebody. I just don't. I just that doesn't even make any sense. That doesn't make any sense to me because I've been thinking this way for a while now, and to see that happen in real time in society, right? Like I said, it should make you question the motives of the people who are trying to silence the messages, right? And I'm not even. I'm Here's the thing: some people could view me as like a conspiracy theorist, right? It's not even. I mean, that's not what it is, right? I'm just a person who can think logically for myself, and I'm not locked into what everybody else tells me around me, right? And I've always been this way. I've always questioned the social norms. I've always questioned life. I've always questioned life. If you know me personally, you know one of the things that I always am an advocate for is just asking questions to learn more about yourself, right? And I would say you learn more about yourself through asking questions, and not only asking questions to yourself, but asking questions to others, and having that discourse. That's why it's very, very important. It's part of the reason why I started this podcast in the first place. But like I said, the second you start to say, "Hey, don't listen to that person," like I said, you got to truly evaluate the motives of that source of information. That's for whatever reason not allowing that person to be on there, not allowing that side of the argument to be had. That's why I think podcasts right now are super super popular, especially podcasts where two or three different people are in it because you get to see real life conversation, right? It's not something that's too much too dictated, right? It's more free flowing, it's more genuine, and I feel like a lot of people like that a lot more and are able to make their opinions a lot easier by listening to podcasts rather than, like I said, hearing this like I said, this constructed narrative that has safety as the what do they false ideal, right? Like I said, fellas, you got to just evaluate these things, right? As of recently in this world, there's been a lot of different things happening, and I feel like at the very least you need to be an observer of this society. And if you're watching this, you should be an observer of the society, and not only with being an observer with society, but just like I said, just keep in mind, ask questions. Ask questions. What question can I ask here that's going to lead me to having a more well informed opinion? Like I said, ask these questions. Like I said, does this person truly have the best intentions in mind, or are they just trying to benefit off my opinion or belief? Right. That's another thing. That's another thing that I see happen all the time. Right. You see plenty of brands, plenty of companies that are sticking to this specific narrative because they think it's going to make people happy. And then there's a lot of people that it doesn't make them happy, right? Or they're doing it based off of what I would say a manipulation of those people, right? To try to get them on board with their company, right? Instead of just being real and saying, hey, I either support that or I either don't support that, right? They just try to do what they think is socially acceptable, right? When in reality, if you look at the way society is structured right now, you got, like I said, I don't know if y'all see that. I don't know if y'all see that, right? You see certain brands that are all of a sudden supporting this when in reality they were never supporting that before. And I think me personally, I don't think it's because they truly want to support that. They're truly just trying to get those people who believe in that on their side and with their company. And I feel like it all goes back to consumerism. But I'm getting off on a tangent. But yeah, that's kind of the way I see it. Like I said, if you see it differently, right? If you think they truly are just an advocate for that, whatever brand or like movement, then I guess that's you. But like I said, I see more deeper than the superficial because usually there's something a little bit deeper than what they're telling us, right? Do you think there's people try to cancel others to get attention or possibly respect on their name and to get money? Do you think that people try to cancel others? Um, I'm not too sure about that one. I'm not too sure about that one, quite frankly. Um, like I said, I definitely believe if you are right now watching this, right, if you see somebody say, "Hey, cancel this person," if you're watching somebody, let's just say one of your favorite YouTubers, right, says, "Hey, cancel this person," make sure they no longer have an opinion. Stop watching that person. That person does not have your best interest in mind. And let's just say you had a argument that you thought was valid, right? And that person said the same thing to you. Now, would you have a real problem with that person? Of course you would, right? And there's going to be special occasions where, like I said, objectively, that person definitely does need to be on a platform, right? If you're doing something illegal, if you're doing something that truly is affecting, truly affecting people for the negative, right? You are nothing more than just a nuisance. You're nothing more than just bringing negativity and only negativity, right? Then of course that person objectively needs to get out the platform, quite frankly. And I'm not saying remove them. I'm saying yeah, I would say not even remove them, right? I feel like there's very few occasions where I'm like, hey, that person definitely needs to get removed. But it's like maybe they just need less attention, right? That's the way I would describe it. But like I said, if you see somebody telling you, hey, that person completely needs to get canceled, right? No say, no opinion, no nothing, not on any platform. Like I said, that person is just what I would say lost in the sauce because, quite frankly, they don't understand how that affects. They don't understand the ripple effect that has on society, right? I feel like they're just thinking very, like I said, superficial. They're not thinking deeper than what's in front of them, right? So you need to evaluate these things. Like I said, make sure you ask these questions. Make sure you think for yourself by thinking critically and by getting multiple sources of information and then making a well-informed opinion based off of that. That's the only way to go about life, in my opinion. And like I said, if you're a person who's just believing everything they're told, there's probably a lot of different things you decided to do based off of that. Just believing everything you're told, right? Because first, if you're believing everything you're told, like I said, you assume that society has the best interest in mind for you, when sadly it doesn't. And if you're a person that doesn't recognize that, then I don't know where the hell you've been for the last few years, and I don't know what content you've been consuming. But just know that you need to start consuming different content because, like I said, society does not have the best interest in mind for you. I don't know if you guys know that, but just view the way society is going right now. And I'm not saying that because I'm a big critic of society. I say it because I'm nothing more than an observer of society, like you guys, right? And the way that I see it is, when's the last time society truly advocated for something that helps a person out in their life? I don't see it too often. Let's just say, for example, one of my favorite examples, and I'm always going to be a person who talks about this because I think it's absolutely hilarious, right? I won't go too off in a tangent, but let's just say, for example, fitness, right? Fitness is one of the most important things that you can have in your life. Yet you don't hear society talking about it too much. All they do is, advertise for advertise for fast food, or advertise for body positivity, saying, "Hey, love your curves. You don't need to make a change in your life. You just need to change the mindset that you have." Fellas, that's not the best interest of mind for you. That's not. It's truly not. It's truly not. Like I said, if you don't see that, then you're living your life with your eyes closed and you're living under a rock, fellas. It's as simple as that. You're like Patrick. But that's the way that I see it, right? KJ, I appreciate you for stopping by, man. If you have any other questions or any specific points that you think I should make along with this podcast, make sure you go and leave in the comments. Jay, appreciate you for stopping by. Like I said again, one thing I want to mention as well. You see certain companies, like I said, suppressing free speech. And do you know why they suppress free speech? It's for their own selfish interest. It's what it is. That is what it is. It's for their own business self interest. Selfish, very selfish, I would say. Now, a lot of y'all won't see it like that, but that's the way it is, right? It's nothing more than just I'm trying to uphold this narrative, and oh yeah, a lot of people are on this side, so I'm gonna go with this side, right? Instead of saying, hey, what is truly best for society? Does society need all perspectives so they can make a well informed opinion, so they can think critically? Do you think they think like that? Then I would say hell no. Right? One of the biggest foundations that this country is founded on is being stripped away from us in real time. Is it not? Right? Can you truly say what you want to say? Can you truly say whatever? Do you truly have free speech? You don't. You don't. It's this, like I said, it's nothing more than a false ideal. It's bullshit. It's bullshit. It's bullshit. And that's okay to an extent, but at the same time, if we already have that if you already have that filter on, right? Okay, it's freedom, but in reality, it's really not freedom. If you already have that filter on, and then you put another filter on that filter, what the fuck is going on, man? What is truly going on? That's the question that I ask, right? So we are already, like I said, oh yeah, we're free, right? Or we have free speech, right? We truly do not, because there's certain things we can't say, and there's certain things that if we do say, we're going to get shunned from society. Fine, whatever. Now you have certain companies that are willing to just remove you off the internet. So now you have, like I said, another filter on top of the filter that we already have. And if you want to if you want to stay within this box that they're trying to put you in, then you're staying in that box, right? It's not trying. You're just basically you're basically playing a game called I just don't want to piss people off, but I kind of still want to say something, but I just don't want to piss people off, right? Like I said, it's very very slippery slope, and obviously the people who are not as good as curating, or not as good with curating their words, definitely do not end up on a favorable side of this. But um, yeah, I think that's worth a mention, right? I think it's worth a mention. It's pretty on topic, right? With how to think. Yeah, yeah, that's what I would say. Give me 1 second. Hold up. Like I said, if you're in here right now, I appreciate you for stopping by. Make sure you go ahead and leave a comment, just like you see who's in here. Like I said, if you have any specific comments, whether you're rewatching this or watching this live, make sure you go ahead and leave it in the comments for sure. All right, let me give you. Okay, yeah, he's pleasing the masses. That's what he said. Pleasing the masses, right? It's funny because, right? So I mentioned that society doesn't have the best interest in mind for you, right? People don't even have the best interest in mind for themselves. Let's keep it 1,000, right? Most people do not even have the best interest in mind for for themselves and their life. They don't. They're nothing more than just focused on tomorrow, and that's it. They don't think anything deeper than just tomorrow, or even just today, quite frankly, right? So how the hell are you going to believe somebody else when most people don't even have the best interest in mind? How are you going to believe society and everything it tells you when, for the most part, most people don't even have the best interest in mind for themselves? Like I said, fellas, you need to think, man. If you're watching this podcast, like I said, I appreciate you for watching, man. But think for yourself. Do not believe everything you're told, because, like I said, it's not worth the pain and headache that you will go through, right? And like I had mentioned, right, within these last 3 years, man, you should have seen. There should have been a lot of red flags and blinking red lights that should have went off in your head. And sadly, if it hasn't, then I hope this is a wake up call to you, because, like I said, you just don't believe everything you're told. Always question it a little bit, at least. Always question it. And like I said, you're going to get more benefit from that, right? Like I said, if you believe everything you're told, you encounter somebody who's well thought out, who's seen both sides of the narrative, you get into a conversation with them, and they can completely debunk everything you believe in, right? And that's not a very fun interaction, right? To not have any leverage in the conversation is not a fun route to go. But like I said, fellas, you got to do what you got to do, man. I'm just trying to give y'all the game the best way that I possibly can, the best way that I know I can. Like I said, I hope this helps at least one person out. If it helps one person out, then I've done my job. But hope it doesn't go over your head, fellas, because this is definitely not a podcast that should be going over your head. Like I said, fellas, episode number 80 of the Life of a Champ podcast. This is definitely going to be yeah, this is definitely one of my favorite ones I think I've made. I have a lot of favorites, but this is definitely one of my favorites for sure. That's interesting though. People want to be told what to think and how to think instead of creating their own story for themselves. Isn't that something that's so interesting? I find that so interesting. And like I said, it doesn't even you don't even take a genius. It doesn't take a genius to recognize these things. Just if you just view people that are around your life, right? Or view people on social media. That's where they expose themselves in AK for sure. They do it all the time, right? I see plenty of people where they're just spewing something. They're just basically talking, but they're not even using their own thoughts. It's completely nothing more than just what they heard. They just basically copied and pasted something that they heard one time, and that's their opinion now. I see it all the time. I see it all the time, man. Always think above the third dimension. Exactly. D tapped in, man. He's tapped in, man. Exactly. Exactly what I'm saying, man. Exactly what I'm saying, right? Like I said, people are really copy and paste. They are nothing more than just, like I said, characters in a video game. You're nothing more than just a side character at that point. If you're just copying and pasting every single opinion that you have to somebody else, right? Dude, you're literally lost in the sauce, man. You're lost in the sauce. Um, you like I said, you're an NPC, man. You're literally an NPC, bro. Don't be those people. Don't be these people, man. Like I said, be something deeper than that. You mean more. If you're watching this, you mean more than just a copy and paste opinion, dude. There's just no way. There's no way, man. Man, like I said, the fact that I even need to make this podcast is fucking insane. But hey, man, here I am, man. Here I am. I see it when on Fresh and Fit, the girls always spit out opinions and they don't know how to back it up. But Myron points it out. Yeah, yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. That's just one of the many few examples that that came to my mind, right? Um, and I would say I can even give you an example, right? Let's use this. Let's use this one. This is just a fun little example. This is a little experiment, right? So, for example, right, there's a lot of labels that are thrown around in today's society, right? A lot of different labels. Now, some of the labels people don't even exactly know what the hell they mean, and when they're questioned about what the meaning of that word is, they can't give you an answer, right? One of my favorite examples that I see all the time, and that kind of pertains to KJ's comment, is the label that people put on people who are pro masculine. You're a misogynist. Now, misogyny, most people don't even know the definition of misogyny, right? Most people don't. I'll give you the definition. It's hatred or contempt towards women. Being a misogynist means you hate women, any and all women. Now, if you don't realize this, there's very, very few people that truly hate women, all women. But if I'm not mistaken, you hear that on a lot of men who truly don't hate women. Truly. That's only and here's my thing, right? Even hatred towards certain women is considered being a misogynist, right? I guess you could say that, but then here's the thing: the definition of that becomes torn apart because there are certain groups of men and certain groups of women that you definitely don't like, right? I don't like men that are super super, you know, uh, crime ridden, like crime, like basically people who are just criminals. I don't like criminals that are men. Does that make me a misandrist, right? And that's another thing people never heard of, right? Most people, here's the thing: if you know the definition of misogyny, clap it up for you. Do you know the definition of misandry? Now, most people don't. I would say 99% of people do not know the definition of misandry. It's basically the same thing, but hatred or contempt towards men. Yeah, and now I see that a lot more, right? And with that being said, I'm kind of going off on a tangent, but you get the gist of what I'm trying to say, right? There's a lot of people who are nothing more than just a copy and paste. Oh, that makes me feel some type of way. I'm going to give you this label. And I, quite frankly, might not even know what this label means. And if you test me on it, I'm going to get mad even more because you think that I don't know that opinion when in reality, I really don't know that opinion, right? Or don't know the meaning of that word, right? That's what I see, right? I see a lot of, like I said, copy and paste people, man. They're just exactly spewing out what something that they heard one time instead of saying, "Hey, well, why do they call it why is this label being used a lot, right? What does this truly mean? Now, what exactly would this look like? Now, is this person exactly using it in the correct term, right? These are questions that no one thinks about, right? I think about these things very thoroughly. I think about these things very, very thoroughly because, like I said, I see a lot of bullshit in society, and like I said, I see past it. I see past all of it. Um, but like I said, most people don't. Most people don't ask the questions. They say, "Oh, well, uh, I guess that kind of makes sense." I'll believe it. It's my opinion now. Now, when somebody brings up a conversation, I'm just going to use the copy and paste. Um, the copy and paste just to, pretty much give my opinion. And it's not really even your opinion. It's the opinion of somebody that you heard one time and that you kind of resonated with a little bit. And that's it. Like I said, fellas, make sure you're out here thinking for yourself. Take in multiple sources of information. Make your informed opinion based off of that. And do not be afraid to have your opinions tested, neither. By the way, and here's the thing: I'm not afraid of that either, right? Now, all the opinions that I do have are very, very thought out. But I'm not against being countered or being against being, you know, challenged for the views that I have. I have no problem with that, right? I have no problem because, like I said, I think these things out, right? I get multiple different sources and I come up with my opinion. Now, if you're a person who does not like their opinions challenged, you got an issue. You got an issue. You got an issue because, quite frankly, you need to be able to be open to being able to hear multiple sources of information and then eventually come up with your own opinion, right? Like I said, fellas, I'm gonna say this one more time, then I'm gonna go ahead and end off. Like I said, free speech is being attacked in real time. If you don't see that, then you're just not you're not existing within reality. Quite frankly, you have your eyes closed, you got a blindfold on, something like that, man. With that being said, like I said, it's nothing. It's part of the foundation that this country is built on, and even though it's not free, do not let free speech be censored, man. Just don't do that, man. It's not the route to go. It's not the route to go, man. Like I said, once you start suppressing one side of the narrative, it's nothing more than the start of tyranny, control, and mass manipulation on the people in society. It's as simple as that. You start shifting reality and the way people see reality based off of that, right? If I say, hey, don't listen to this side, they don't know what they're talking about, blah, 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 discredit them, right? Don't listen to that person who says that. Don't listen to the person who says that because, quite frankly, they don't know what they're talking about. They don't see past the temporary discomfort that somebody might say to them, right? They don't see past that. And like I said, there's plenty of people that say things that I don't agree with or things that I don't like particularly, but I'm not going to say, "Hey, they don't deserve this. They don't deserve a say." That's childish, man. That's childish. What kind of rules are you playing with? What kind of rules are you playing with, man? To say, "Hey, don't talk." Hey, somebody needs to shut that person up completely. What are you talking about, dude? That's not living real, man. That's not living real. That's living in a fake reality, man. That's living in a fake reality, man. And like I said, on this podcast, I keep it 1,000, and like I said, I keep shit real out here, man. And with that being said, anything that goes contrary to keeping it 1,000 or like I said, keeping shit real is gonna get my opinion for sure. That's for sure. But other than that, fellas, I appreciate you for stopping by. If you're in here right now, make sure to leave a comment just before I end it off, and then I'll go ahead and end off here in a minute. So, if you like the podcast, make sure you go ahead and let me know in the comments. If you didn't like the podcast, let me know as well. God damn. Relax, relax. Also, one question I'm gonna leave you guys off on, right? As so last month I did No Shave November. If you think I should keep it, let me know. Obviously, it's still not nothing really. It's a little something slight, but if you like it, let me know. If you don't like it, let me know. I'm trying to get people's opinions, man, so I can come up to my own well-informed opinion, right? Of course I did, KJ. Of course I did. Come on now, 50 piece. Come on now. Something relating to the topic, man. Something relating to the topic, man. But yeah, I seen it for sure. I seen it for sure. I seen it, man. All right, bet. Jay, I appreciate that. He said to keep it. All right, bet. But yeah, I just decided to do it. It was just a weird impulse that I had. I was like, you know what, man? I'm not gonna shave, man. Shaving is a pain in the ass, anyways, in my opinion. And I was like, you know what? I'll leave it. I'll leave it. So I've been growing it out for about a month. Um, like I said, today is December 1st. If you're rewatching this, right? So December 1st. Should be a good month, fellas. Should be a good month. Make sure you are making your. Or one thing I want to mention before as well is make sure you're setting up and specifically writing down the things you want to accomplish to set yourself up for next year, right? That is something that I'm doing, so you will see some improvements within the podcast by the end of this month. Appreciate it, KJ. But yeah, you will see certain improvements, like I said, with this podcast coming this month. Like I said, fellas, make sure you go ahead and do that as well because that is definitely going to be something that is going to set you up better for next year. I appreciate it, man. I appreciate you guys' opinions, man. But other than that, fellas, I appreciate everyone stopping by. This was the Life of a Champ podcast, episode number 80. 80, fellas? Yes, sir. Um, I just want to leave you guys off on one thing, right? Just a motto for the podcast, man. Fellas out here, we don't just work around here, man. We outwork. So make sure y'all working these motherfuckers every single day. Every single day, I work them, man. Other than that, like I said, make sure to go ahead and follow my TikTok. It's just Life of a Champ podcast on TikTok. Also, make sure to go ahead and like my YouTube shorts. I'm going to be posting a few right after this podcast, as well as I just posted a new video earlier. So make sure to go ahead and tap in with that. And before I end it off, of course he does, D. Of course he does, man. Come on now. Everybody deserves a second chance at least once. But other than that, fellas, you guys have a good rest of your night. And until next week. Oh, just one more thing. I'm going to be doing a live stream either Friday or Saturday. It's going to be on Twitch. So make sure you tap in with that as well. But other than that, fellas, you guys have a good rest of your nights. Like I said, until next week, man.